Hello everyone, and welcome to Noodle Journey, your destination for detailed and informative reviews of the instant noodle universe. Today I'm doing something a little different. I'm checking out a trio of related products in one video, rather than dividing them up into 3 videos, and I really should have reviewed these before now because they're super popular. This is Mama's shrimp flavor tom yum, creamy shrimp flavor tom yum, and pork flavor tom yum. Before we get started, please give this video a thumbs up and subscribe to the channel if you enjoy these reviews. And please let me know in the comments if you like this type of video where I review a bunch of related products all at once rather than doing one review per video, and maybe I can do more like this. This is going to take a little longer for me to edit, but if you get more benefit out of watching consolidated reviews like this, then I'm happy to oblige. Now, that being said, I'm of the opinion that Mama products are awesome, at least the ones I've tried so far. You can find these in a lot of supermarkets now, in Asian grocery stores, and almost any online storefront that sells noodles. And they're cheap as hell. These are all under $1 unless someone is ripping you off. At my local H-Mart, these all cost 69 cents, and the shrimp variety is 48 cents at my nearby Walmart the last time I checked. Insane value. Yes, believe it or not, Walmart sells these. These 3 varieties of instant tom yum are probably the easiest to find in the USA, possibly even the whole world. I've never walked into an Asian grocery store and not seen at least one of these on the shelf. And usually it's these 2. Mama does make a few other tom yum flavors besides these, but these 3 are the ones I'm able to find where I live, and so that's why I'm putting them all together for this video. Now, if you're not familiar with Asian food and haven't seen my other couple videos about tom yum, you might be wondering what it is. Tom yum is a spicy sour soup from Thailand, and you'll often find it on the menu of your local Thai takeout place. The base protein can be just about anything. It's usually shrimp or pork. And then it's got a punchy broth with herbs like lemongrass, galangal, and kaffir lime leaves, and usually some chili peppers to give it some spice. And sometimes you'll also find cilantro in it, which I am slowly learning to tolerate despite my genetics. So of all that stuff, what specifically is in these packages? Glad you asked. We're going to start with the basic shrimp tom yum flavor, which people swear by. Okay, so shrimp tom yum sodium check. 1,630 milligrams, or 71% of your daily allowance. Not exactly a small amount for a small pack like this, so plan your meal accordingly. Inside the package, we've got these thin, fragile noodles, like super fragile. I actually buy backup packages of Mama to review because sometimes everything inside feels pulverized despite me barely touching it. And if you don't believe me, look at all those noodle fragments inside the bag there. Yeah, thankfully these cook up pretty well. We've also got a double powder packet. One side of it is seasoning powder, the other side is chili powder. So the spice is optional if you don't want it, but tom yum soup is supposed to be a little bit spicy. And then we've got a liquid packet that contains shrimp paste. Most of Mama's varieties are vegan, but between the powder and the paste, you do have shrimp powder and fish sauce, so vegetarians and vegans should stay away from this. Now, like most Mama noodles, you only have to steep these for a few minutes to get them cooked, which means you put everything into your serving bowl. So we've got the noodles. For the sake of everyone who doesn't like spicy food, I will omit the chili powder from this initial steeping. And then once I've had a taste of the broth, I will add it in. So the powder on its own doesn't smell like much, just a very slight earthy scent with some citrus. And now we've got this liquid, which I am going to mix up a little bit. It feels like the paste is kind of separated. Okay. Oh, shrimp powder for sure. Pretty mild in scent, so if you despise the smell of seafood, this isn't going to win you over, but it's nowhere near the strongest seafood smell I've ever gotten out of a pack of noodles. Okay, I'm going to get 350 milliliters of boiling water and cover this with a plate. Okay, that was a 3-minute steep. As you can see, that's more than enough to get the noodles cooked. Let's Give this a stir. Now the bad news for you spice haters is that I still see what appears to be red chili flakes floating around in the broth. So you're not completely in the clear by omitting the spice packet. Let me give the broth a taste real quick, and then I'll add the chili pepper in. Yeah, that is a little spicy on its own already. So not completely mild, be forewarned. But now to complete the dish, I'm going to add the chili powder. Smells pretty good. An earthy red pepper scent. And a bit more of it than I was expecting in that little pack. Okay, let's stir this up some more. Okay. Looks pretty well dissolved. As far as aromas go, this is very citrusy. Definitely lemongrass or whatever was engineered to taste like lemongrass that they added to the powder. It's pretty nice. You can tell also that the consistency of the broth is on the watery side. And I have had it from Thai takeout places like this before. I've also had tom yum from Thai places where they add coconut milk to it and it comes out a lot thicker. I'm assuming that's what the creamy shrimp tom yum is going to be. You may have a personal preference as to how you like your tom yum broth, so just be warned that this basic one is the thin broth kind. All right, time for a taste. Okay, so first off, there's nothing new to report about the noodles. These are the same Mama noodles I've reviewed before, and even though they are super crumbly in the package, and even though I don't usually like my noodles on the thin side like this, I like that they cook up firm without getting soggy. And that works well in a broth with this consistency, I think. I know there are people out there that don't like the texture of Mama noodles, but I think they're a terrific class of noodle for the money. And they're a 7.5 out of 10 for me. For the sake of not repeating myself for the other two packs, let's just assume that all three of these tom yum flavors will have a 7.5 score for the noodles. Now, as far as spiciness goes, you can choose not to pour the chili packet in here if you really want this mild. But frankly, the difference in spice level between the broth without the chili powder and with the chili powder, it's marginal at best. It's a pretty mild heat without the chili powder, maybe a 2 out of 10 on my spice scale. And then adding the chili powder into this brings it up to maybe a 2.5. Let's say 3 to be safe. 3 out of 10. I think it's just right for this kind of soup. If you don't like spice that much and you want to risk tasting this without the chili powder, don't say I didn't warn you. It is still a little spicy without it. So let's talk about the broth. And the most noticeable prominent flavor in this is citrus. And I can't put my finger on whether it's lemongrass or lime powder or some combination, but it does have a nice citrus zest to it. I've seen people on Reddit accuse this of tasting like one of those citrus-scented all-purpose cleaners. Yeah, I guess if you're particularly sensitive to citrus powder, you may feel the same way about this, but I like it. It's not off-putting at all to me. Like, it doesn't taste like it came out of a lab somewhere. There's also a mild hint of sweetness from the shrimp powder and whatever paste was in that liquid pack. And I don't really taste any fishy funkiness going on that would offend people who are on the fence with seafood-based soups. I think those of you who are a little gun-shy about seafood soup will probably be fine with this flavor. As far as the other typical tom yum ingredients, if there is galangal or ginger in here, it's not super noticeable to me. There's not a super strong ginger quality that I can taste. If it is in here, it's blending in very well. And speaking of tasting things, I don't taste cilantro. I don't think there's any in here. I didn't spy any green bits that weren't green onions. So those of you with the same stupid mutant gene that I have can rest assured that this is safe for your consumption. So now the consistency, like I said, is pretty watery. And that liquid paste packet didn't really thicken it up. It does add some nice oiliness to the top of the broth, as you can probably see. and that oil makes it feel a little more authentic. Broth isn't nearly as premium or luxurious as what you get from Ramen Talk or even Samyang's Bulldog Tom Yum, but it's a minor complaint about consistency. It doesn't completely detract from the decent noodles or the good flavor or the fact that this is so cheap and tastes so good at that price point. There's a few very tiny green onion flakes in here, but not enough to really talk about or that add any flavor to this that I can tell. So, yeah, it's a slight ding. I wish there were more dried ingredients in this, but again, it's cheap, so it's not that big a deal. So, yeah, I'm comfortable giving this a 7 out of 10 score overall. All right, so we're off to a pretty good start here. This was pretty tasty, I gotta say. I'm very happy about the absence of cilantro flavor, which means you can add your own if you enjoy eating that vile weed. The shrimp flavor in this is mild and accessible. The spice is also pretty accessible, and I think the citrus flavor mixed with the spice makes this a very hearty, enjoyable bowl of noodles. All right, so now I want to move on to the creamy shrimp tom yum flavor, or shrimp creamy tom yum flavor as it's written on the top of the package. My gut tells me this is going to be a little bit more interesting than the last one. Sodium count, 1,720 milligrams, 75% of your daily allowance. Still pretty high considering this is a small pack of noodles, so bear that in mind when you're eating these. Alright, so this wasn't planned, but here's a perfect example of how fragile these noodles are. I have not manhandled this pack in any way since I bought it, and yet I just pulled this block of noodles out of here, and it's this little fragment of noodles and a whole bunch of them left in the bag. It's not going to affect the taste, obviously, but I'm going to have a lot of small noodle fragments when I cook this up. It honestly looks more like one of those, noodle snack bags that you crush up and mix with spices rather than something that you cook. But anyway, we've got a seasoning packet and a liquid packet. There's nothing double-sided here like there was with the last one. Any of the spice is mixed in with this powder. And now there's not a whole lot else I can say about these. Mama products tend to be a little light on the information on the ingredients list. But there's a few differences here between the last flavor and this one besides the omission of the chili packet. We are missing fish sauce in the shrimp paste completely, according to the ingredients. The shrimp powder is buried really far down in the list this time. And then we've got a dairy-based creamer mixed in here as well. Or I guess maybe it's in here, but this is pretty dark, so I kind of doubt it. Now, normally when you add coconut milk to tom yum, it's actually tom kha. But the creamer listed on the pack here doesn't say it's coconut milk, it just says it's a dairy creamer. So that makes this kind of a hybrid, I guess? I don't know that I've ever seen this in a restaurant before, like tom yum specifically with dairy-based milk in it. So anyone who's more well-versed in Thai food, if you could please let me know if this is still technically tom yum if you add dairy to it. I'm very curious. But either way, this should be an interesting result. I don't think milk is gross to add to tom yum, at least not in principle. But you know what? Let's find out. It's time to cook this up. All right. Once again, into your serving bowl, we're going to add all the noodles in all of their forms. God, that is a lot that got crushed. Look at that. All right, in goes the powder. Smells like citrus, and as you can see, it's much lighter than the other powder, so that's got to be where the creamer is. There's also a lot more of it. Also appears to be a lot more green onion too. That's a good sign. And then the paste. Once again, when you get a pack of noodles like this that comes with a paste, make sure you massage it until it's all mixed up inside. Interesting. I would have assumed it was the same paste, but that smells a lot more ginger forward than the last one did. And I just had a little lick of it off my finger. It's got some spice to it. The other one didn't. It had the separate chili powder. Yeah, this is like a completely different formulation besides just the creamer being added to the powder. Okay, so 300 milliliters of boiling water in this. Cover it and steep for 3 minutes, and we'll be ready. All right, and here we go, and we're going to give this a very good stir to get that paste dissolved. You can immediately tell the difference in broth consistency between the last one and this one. Also much more oily on the top from the shrimp paste. Pretty cool. Aroma-wise, it's kind of similar to the other one. I don't smell anything different. Strong citrus vibes, a very mild seafood shrimp adjacent smell. Yeah, smells nice. Let's taste it. All right, the spice level is about on par with the other package. It's a pretty mild heat, about what I would expect from tom yum soup from my local takeout place. If you're a novice spice lover, I think you can handle this with no problem, and I'm certain that creamer is taming it just a little bit. So I'm going to give this a 2.5 out of 10 for spice. It's not a whole lot different than the last flavor, and I think it hits just right. So the big thing here is the flavor and the consistency, and how does this differ from the regular shrimp tom yum. Flavor-wise, you're going to find here a very mild seafood flavor with a medium amount of citrus. This is not in any way fishy or shrimpy to my taste buds, and the citrus is really nice. Now that powdered milk is where the true difference is between this and the regular shrimp tom yum lie. This one is a little sweeter, not overly so, and way creamier, and it interacts with the citrus and shrimp elements really well. The broth is not nearly as watery this time. You can take a look and see it right there. More creaminess, more oil. This is what I think I wanted more when I was eating the plain shrimp tom yum. Just like a thicker broth does wonders for the way this comes out. This is a perfect mix of salty, sweet, umami, and citrus in a much thicker broth that makes me happy. We're still skimpy on the dried ingredients, but it's better this time. You can see some big chunks of what I think are green onion in here. And for 70 cents, I can't complain about the amount that's in here. So I gave the regular shrimp flavor a 7. The extra creaminess and oiliness in this one is absolutely worth a point better. So I'm gonna give this an 8 out of 10 as an overall score. This one is great. It's going to be hard for the pork tom yum to top this. The first one was no slouch, but I really love this one. It's creamy and comforting, and it has a quality that you probably wouldn't expect at its price point. I'm going to add some stuff to this and happily devour it once the camera's off. Finally, we come to the last flavor, this pork tom yum, which I think is pretty cool. You do see a lot of seafood flavors with tom yum instant noodles, but there's absolutely no reason that other proteins like pork can't be used, so I'm itching to find out if this is better or worse than the shrimp flavor. And now with this pork tom yum, we're getting into what I would call the high end of sodium for such a small package. We've got 1,930 milligrams here, which is 84% of your daily allowance in this little bag. So if you buy this and decide to add some toppings to it, just bear that in mind so you don't go crazy with the sodium. Inside, we've got the usual block of Mama's noodles, thankfully not crushed to smithereens this time. We've got a soup powder, a liquid oil, and what I think is a pack of sesame seeds. You'll notice once again there's no separate packet of chili powder this time, meaning that you get what you get as far as spiciness goes when you add the powder. Once again, I've got some very sparse details on the nutrition label, so all I can really say about what's in here is that the pork flavoring is artificial, which usually means some yeast extract formulation, and I see no trace of seafood products either, meaning that this appears to be vegetarian and probably vegan. But please do your own check before buying this if you don't eat animal products. Mama has stated in the past that their only varieties that contain animal products are the shrimp ones, so if that's still true, you vegans are in the clear here. Okay, time to get this cooked. Okay, noodles are in the serving bowl. We're going to add the powder. I'm detecting citrus and either black or white pepper in there. Oh yeah, that looks like black pepper. Okay, interesting surprise. There wasn't any discernible peppercorn flavor in the other two varieties, so that's neat. All right, now this liquid packet, I have a very sneaking suspicion what this is. Yep, I was right. So, some of Mama's other varieties, and I noticed this the very first time I tried Mama products with their Palo duck flavor, they come with this buttery, but not real butter because it's vegan, garlic oil. And it smells wonderful, and it adds a really strong garlic flavor to whatever you put it in. And that means this is going to be a garlicky tom yum, which is very interesting. Okay, and I'm pretty sure these are sesame seeds. Yep. Quite a generous serving, too. Okay, now you're going to steep this with 300 milliliters of boiling water and cover it for 3 minutes. Be right back. Okay, and here we go. Time to give this a good stir. Now the aroma coming off of this one is a combination of the usual citrus, but with a lot of garlic this time, which is not surprising given the additional packet of garlic oil in here. So as you can see, the consistency is about the same as it was with the shrimp tom yum, maybe ever so slightly thicker. It's hard to tell with all the sesame seeds floating in here. All right, I'm very interested in trying this. Let's give it a taste. Okay, this is interesting. Let's talk about the spice level. It's actually less spicy than I think the other two versions were. There is a little more peppercorn flavor, which I smelled when I opened up the powder packet. But as far as actual chili pepper in here, yeah, this is even milder than either shrimp version. I'm going to give this a 2 out of 10 for the spice level. Definitely the least spicy of the three. And yeah, so you're probably wondering how this compares to the shrimp flavors, but let me just talk about it on its own first. It's pretty good. The citrus flavor is strong, but the garlic oil is really adding a nice layer of complexity to it. The pork flavor is where it loses me a little bit. The artificial flavoring isn't quite right. It's a little yeasty, but thankfully it's a little more subtle than I was expecting. Not a huge complaint. Most people find artificial pork flavoring to be way more tolerable than I do. And after all, this is not tonkotsu, it's tom yum, so you want the chili pepper and the citrus to be front and center, and they definitely are. I like the little extra crunch from the sesame seeds. There's plenty of them in here. That's great. The noodles cling to the broth well enough and soaked up some flavor. Yeah, I really like this. The only thing I'm missing is the mild sweetness that the shrimp flavor added to the tom yum formula, and maybe the consistency that the milk added to the creamy shrimp tom yum. The trade-off here compared to those flavors is the extra blast of garlic from the liquid packet, and so coupled with the strong citrus layer and a pretty hefty amount of salt, I feel like the overall vibe of this product comes across more zesty than either of the other two. So if shrimp isn't in your wheelhouse for whatever reason, or you just would prefer a stronger smack of garlic to your tom yum, then this pork flavor is a very worthwhile alternative. Both in comparison to the other two and on its own merits, this is extremely flavorful. So I'm going to give this a 7.5 out of 10 as an overall score. The garlic flavor makes me really happy, and if the artificial pork flavor was just a hair more accurate, I think this would have been an 8 or even an 8.5 out of 10. Still really good. All right, and thus we conclude the Mama Tom Yum trilogy. Let's rank all three. If you have no dietary restrictions, I think the creamy shrimp is the clear winner. Terrific consistency, very mild but tasty seafood flavor, just a great rendition of the tom yum formula. And that leaves the shrimp and pork flavors. I think my second favorite is definitely the pork. I wasn't super crazy about the artificial pork flavoring, but I love the extra garlic. And it is also the only vegan one as far as I can tell of these three. So if you're vegan, this is the one you're going to need to go for. And the shrimp flavor, the original, is in third place, but that doesn't make it bad at all. The flavor is still very good in its own right, and there's something to be said for being able to pick up something this cheap and tasty at Walmart. If you love seafood, this one does have the strongest seafood flavor out of the three. So that being said, if all three of these appeal to you, then just buy them all and try them yourself. They're only like 60 or 70 cents a pop. Unbeatable bargains. The price tag leaves plenty of wiggle room for some toppings like fresh tomatoes, mushrooms, shrimp, or pork, and you can make up your own mind about which flavor is your favorite. I think really they're all pretty great. This is the one I'm definitely going to buy again, but nothing wrong with these two either. So if you've got a favorite of the Mama Tom Yum flavors, leave me some comments. Let me know which it is and why. And also, like I said at the very beginning, let me know if you prefer longer form videos like this with multiple reviews, or if you prefer shorter videos where I keep each product individualized like I usually do. I do have a viewer requested mini marathon of 4 products coming up pretty soon, and I'm debating whether or not I want to do them in individual videos or all in one longer video like this one was. So let me know what you like, and with that I'll sign off. Please join me again on the next episode of Noodle Journey.